What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon GO Battle League content. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming Spring Cup here in Pokemon Go, where we're going to have it for 2 weeks, starting today as of the day of this video drop. It's going to be Friday, and then for 2 weeks during the Ultra League and the Master League. So if you're not too keen on playing those upper two leagues, you might be wanting to sit around for a while in the Spring Cup, which looks like a very small meta, as it only allows Water, Fairy, and Grass types, while banning Mantine and Toxapex. Yet somehow, the other water flyers are just fine, and so is Tentacruel, which is honestly, in my opinion, probably worse than Toxapex for the meta. So we have a few new additions since we had this meta last year. If I remember correctly, Tentacruel and Ferrothorn were the undisputed champion core of the meta. Now, we've had some new additions like the addition of Empoleon with its Steel Wing, and we've also had some things come into the meta that were a little bit better than last time, such as where is it? There it is, Superior with the Aerial Ace. That was not given Aerial Ace until after we had the Spring Cup last time. As well as Dugong, Golisopod, Carbink. Araquanid has Water Pulse, but I don't know if that really matters much to here. Poliwrath is a new thing we've had. Celio got updated this season. And Feraligator's also in this meta, although I think it's going to be a little bit less able to really hang with the meta just because of the fact that there's so many things like Tentacruel and Grass types. Grass is going to be very dominant in this format, if you couldn't tell. And some Pokemon that I like just off the rip here before we get into the 5 teams that I've picked out for this format, for this at least to get started here. I really like Ferrothorn. Tentacruel is the king of putting down 2 shields to get whatever it needs to get done. So just keep an eye on that. I'm also a huge fan of Abomasnow. I really actually don't like Galarian Weezing in this format just because it just eats it to Tentacruel and also is reliant on landing an overheat for most of its wins, which means it has to play the bait game, and I'm not a fan of it. But Empoleon, I feel like, is going to dominate the ever-loving anything out of this format this week. I kind of like Venusaur here. Dugong is a bit of a lower on the rankings unsung hero, and I don't know where it is on these rankings, but I had a lot of fun with my triple legacy seeking last time we had this cup. So I think that there is some room for evolving in this meta. We're going to see a lot of people running the Tentacruel Ferrothorn core, and in this first team that I've got here, just kind of segueing into the first team here. We've got Ferrothorn, Tentacruel, Weezing. So if you are a Weezing lover, you can use this team. If you don't like Weezing, you could try something else with, the poison coverage. I personally would probably sub out the Weezing for Seeking. If you have a triple legacy Seeking about, it was a very strong team for me last time. We got some videos on the channel. You can check that out. But Weezing is definitely going to depend on the moveset here. And like I said, against things like, Abomasnow and every other grass type, you absolutely have to land that overheat. Otherwise, the Brutal Swings do some chip damage, but it's not going to be impactful enough to end a matchup unless you land that overheat. The team gets very good coverage into the meta here. There are some things that beat it in the Sims, and like we were saying earlier, Tentacruel is the king of putting down 2 shields, so you can either throw Tentacruel in the lead and let it do the 2 shield dance, or you can save shields for it. You can use it as a save switch. It's really, really flexible in this cup. Pelipper is something that beats this whole team in the 1s and sort of in the 0s a bit. So you'll have to take some care if you see Pelippers, but honestly, I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot. You might see somebody get really, kind of spicy, try to run Pelipper, but as good as Pelipper is, I don't know if it's going to be too popular in this meta just because of how reliant on landing Hurricanes it's going to be with things like Tentacruel and other things like that. So but overall, this team has very good coverage into the meta. I feel like anybody who runs into an Empoleon lead, you could easily just put a second shield into the Ferrothorn, and now you've probably got the hardest answer to both Tentacruel and Weezing off the table, which might make it so that the 2 poison types in the back have a lot more play into the rest of their team. So as far as threats go, this team has coverage in just about everything in the meta, and I like that when we see the X's in the lead, means we're strong in the lead, weak in the back, means that we can use the Weezing to draw out something in the back that may be weak to Ferrothorn, that we can get it out of the way, and then let Tentacruel sweep, vice versa. So being strong in the back, or being strong to the lead, weak in the back is okay. I did put a team building video out. Hopefully I covered that topic. a couple weeks ago. But let's jump into team number 2 here and see what we got on the docket. So team number 2 is going to be an Empoleon double grass team. I do like this one, although I'm not 100% sold on Tropius. I think that you could probably shuffle around all of the grass types in this team if you wanted to. I would prefer to land on these grass types that are strong against fighting, just in case Poliwrath ends up getting really popular because of all the Empoleon and Ferrothorn. I could certainly see Poliwrath getting a prime spot in the meta after a little while. But this team, otherwise, it does have strong coverage. Empoleon, like I was saying, is a monster in this format. You really need to make sure that if you're going to play the Empoleon lead, you want to put things in the back that are good against ground types. So if you end up encountering a Whiscash or a Swampert, and also things that are going to be strong against Lantern and Poliwrath. Tropius and Venusaur both fill that role, so that's why I like them a lot on this team. But again, you could pick really any other 2 grass types. I feel like that would be able to beat those Pokemon. And otherwise, other than that, like, both the grass types have an incredible amount of play against Empoleon, and I think that it could be a team effort. If you encounter an Empoleon on the lead, you could certainly, you know, try to catch the Hydro Cannon or swap when they're out of energy, you know, stuff like that. But overall, this team makes a lot of sense to me, and it looks very strong, and I think that it might actually be one of the best in this format. Now, speaking of best in format, again, with the grass and Empoleon core, this time we're flipping it around and using a Chesnaught on the lead. And I like Chesnaught in this format, and the reason why, because of all the waters, right? Chesnaught destroys most of the waters in this format, but it also has a lot of play against Ferrothorn because of that superpower. And you also have incredibly large amounts of play against things like Empoleon, even though you're double weak to the flying type. What we did here was we put 2 water types that are in the back that are going to be strong against the flyers, right? So Dugong and Empoleon are 2 very strong anti-flyer options in this meta, and very consistent ones. Dugong has that ground ice coverage that's pretty much perfect coverage into anything that's not Araquanid or Golisopod. And you also have Empoleon as a closer on this team that is just extremely strong. And I think that Chesnaught functions really well as a core breaker. The coverage on this team is not as dominant as maybe we've seen in the other ones as far as the letter grades are concerned. But even for the B for coverage, I still think this is a very good, you know, anti-meta sort of pick here with Chesnaught. And if you want to, you could throw, like, you know, Trevenant on the lead, for example, would probably shore up some of the weaknesses here, or something that can beat the wall rain. You could even, I mean, I wouldn't put Ferrothorn here, only because that makes you triple weak to Poliwrath, but you could do something like, you put a Jellicent if you want to. You could, because all these, both these Pokemon have play against the grass type, so it's something you could do. So some Pokemon here that might be able to beat this team, right? So Serperior is definitely a big one. If you see Serperior on the lead, you're going to be sad. But you could certainly make a play against it if you could just do some chip damage. You know, the Frenzy Plant and Superpower from Chesnaught will still do some damage here. And otherwise, Wall Rain is an issue, but really, a Wall Rain has to land Earthquake in the Empoleon and Dugong matchup. And Chesnaught, I mean, it's just probably from being outpaced, let's be honest. If Chesnaught gets some energy and comes back into a Wall Rain, it's going to have a bad time. So other than that, though, the team has coverage against pretty much the rest of the meta in some way, form, or fashion. And again, you could swap out Chesnaught for like something like Trevenant if you like, and I wouldn't mind that at all. So now we're starting to get into some of the more anti-meta sort of picks here. So like I was saying, I do expect that Poliwrath will probably find its way back into the meta. There's going to be a lot of people playing the Tentacruel and, you know, the Ferrothorn, and there's going to be enough people playing things like Ferrothorn and Empoleon that the people are going to try to counter that with Poliwrath, because Poliwrath is an extremely good answer to those 2 steel types. So Tentacruel on the lead here, I like it as a 2-shield acid spray, get in and get alignment. You'll get rid of the Ferrothorn, get rid of whatever is going to be a problem. And then let Abomasnow and Jellicent being a very strong, even just in general in Great League, a very strong core in this meta, especially being able to counter Jellicent specifically, being able to counter things like the Brain's gone. The Brain is late, and I think Brain is gone. Being able to counter things like other Tentacruels and Empoleons and other things like that very well. Jellicent is one of the better anti-water waters in this format, and you have Abomasnow, which, again, you could put Ferrothorn back here if you really want to. I just try not to put the same thing on every team, but you could use Abomasnow as it's got that ice and grass typing, really helps it shore up a lot of the grass and water matchups. And you have the anti-fairy in the lead to hopefully deal with those if you need to. Taking a look at the final team here, back with Dugong, my beloved, but this is a Trevenant team, and I think that Lantern also may at some point find its way into the meta. So we put Trevenant on the lead with 2 anti-flyers in the back, as Trevenant really only wants to worry about the Wheezing and the Flyers, because it does very well into the non-flying grass types and the non-flying water types and the non-ice types. So you also have 2 very decent answers to most ice types in this format. So I like this team. If you really want to run a Trevenant, the coverage honestly doesn't look bad at all here. And being able to beat Ferrothorn, and most of the time with a Dugong, you're going to draw out the Ferrothorn, and you're going to probably get an Icy Wind off before they end up going down, even maybe a second one, depending on if they give you enough energy advantage or if the Power Whip doesn't KO right away, which it's Dugong. It's super bulky. It definitely won't KO right away. But being able to drop the attack of Ferrothorn and then even use Dugong to completely farm it down, like Shadow Ball is going to hit almost everything for a lot of damage. So the opponent will always have to respect it. And both of these Pokemon also have play into Tentacruel. I'm not fond of the Tentacruel Trevenant matchup from Trevenant's perspective, because those acid sprays and poison jabs add up pretty quickly. So having 2 Pokemon that have good coverage moves into the Tentacruel is helpful here, which is Dugong with Drill Run, and then you have the lightning or the electric type damage coming from the Lantern. So otherwise, you know, this whole meta really is going to end up being a bit polarizing as far as like grass water. It's an RPS-ish meta with the water and grass types kind of flying around, but if you can grab a team that you enjoy that is able to kind of mitigate and break through and try and be a bit more safe than giving into the RPS nature of it all and playing super hard RPS things like Swampert and I don't know what else, whatever else there is. You know, just try to you know, adapt to the meta and try to adjust your team. If you're starting to see a lot of Poliwrath, maybe it's time to switch to Trevenant, Lantern Core, stuff like that. Just so let me know in the comments what team you guys looking to play. And real quick note that my Discord is open for those who want to sign up for the Patreon and YouTube memberships. All early access stuff in there, meta-analysis, all this stuff is going to be live in the Discord as of much earlier this week. So all the members in there get it early. Plus, you get a discount on coaching if you'd like. You can find me on Metafy for coaching this season if you're looking to hit that next level or trying to improve your gameplay. And with that, I'm going to take off. You guys have a great weekend, and I hope you enjoy the Spring Cup. And then we'll be seeing you in the streams again. 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be playing GBL on that stream, trying to make that climb. So come check it out, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.